Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom. I'm Thomas Hoang, and you're listening to the TL podcast, where knowledge is shared and no one takes themselves too seriously.
Go guys. Hey guys, how are we?
We live?
We are live. Hey, welcome.
I'm pretty sure we are live. Yeah.
For all the no people out there that were waiting for us, sorry we're late.
Was that your plan?
Yeah. How are we, guys?
It's very good that we get to start again.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we do.
It's 5
Some
minutes
technical issue.
First time for everything, eh?
Chris has dodged a bullet. Mate.
Anyways, big birthday, Cam. Big 40th, huh?
Big party, sore heads.
Big Bill. Big Bill.
No, that's all right. Bill didn't matter. But big party. Room full of people that are all spiritually aligned would come together good. And by that, I mean love to get loose.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have got a word in, Lou, because we kept the microphone. You would have been no good at all.
So funny.
No, it was good. There was a few man of the match performances. I think my brother was a surprise. He ripped right in. I think it's Crystal's sister, Tennille, if she's watching, she was loose and struggling the next day, might I add. And then TL reckons he doesn't remember half the night. I reckon he's glad.
No, I do remember the whole night. It's no problem. It's just snippets.
He was good.
I think that my drinks had been spiked.
Yeah, your Chardonnay was spiked with Chardonnay.
Around the end of the night. That's why I couldn't remember the end.
You can't remember disappearing?
12 o'clock special.
My kids in the background. No, it had to be. Oh, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I got back at 3.
Oh wow!
Jeez.
Night.
We kept going.
You're only 40 months. Good on you.
But it is amazing when you get a bunch of people in a room that had no idea who each other were. But when I looked at the list, I went, all these people are very similar. So at some point during the night, it will be on for young and old. And it took a little while to get going, but then all of a sudden, kaboom.
Yeah.
Someone dropped the hand grenade and we were off. So
Yeah.
it was
Wow.
very good night. One of the greats. We'll never forget it or remember it at the same time. I thought I had a pretty good grasp on what went on, but I've seen some photos and some videos I distinctly don't remember.
Oh, no, good work.
You have a good night, Chris?
Oh, an amazing night, mate. Amazing night. Yeah, I've still got certain pictures scarred into the back of my retinas of people doing certain things to each other, and it wasn't good. Dance moves that you don't want to see two people do. Singing that you really don't want to hear. Two brothers doing dirty dancing. This sort of stuff. I mean, but you know what I was really surprised with is your ability to look like the real Slim Shady. That was, and Rita even said to me, he goes, he knows every bloody word. I go, he's either knows every word or I just don't understand what he's saying, but it sounds like he knows every bloody word. Because, mate, I was dumbfounded. I was like, are you for real? Yes.
It was good. And I have kept that in the back pocket for a little while. He was trying to get me to do that at Rita's 50th, mate, but
That was amazing. It was really good. Amazing night.
And I'm Lord Cameron Wilson.
Lord Cameron Wilson.
I'm Lord Cameron Wilson. Christo bought me a square foot of land in Scotland, so I'm officially a lord. I've got the certificate to prove it.
I've got to figure, what does a real estate agent buy real estate? I'm going to buy him real estate.
Yeah. Right.
Lord, and I thought Cam's ego, yeah, I can see him putting it on his passport. Lord Cameron Wilson, walking into the plane. I need to be upgraded. My name's Lord Cameron Wilson. Don't worry about the family. They can stay in economy.
Sounds like a good one.
I've spent the rest of the week trying to recover. So we're still, where are we, Thursday?
It was a big night. All right, so what are we doing?
All right, wine.
Let's get into wine first.
So
Ladies
I've
first.
got
Oh, okay.
ladies first. Ladies first.
Yeah, he was. That's why he said it.
Yeah, you can go first. Okay, so this week, guys, Voyager Estate. Don't know if you've ever had it. 2015 Cabernet Sauvignon, Margaret River. Doesn't say much on the bottle, so I can't help you out much with what it's about or whatever. But all it says, sustainably farmed and family owned, first planted in 1978. So I bought a batch of cellar release bottles. So this is one of them. So yeah, should be a good drop.
Awesome.
I've got to take the lid off.
So I want something a little bit different. It's still a red. It's two grapes that I really can't pronounce the name of. Two rarer sort of grapes. It's a little bit of a bolder, it's an Austrian wine. It's grown and about 45 minutes southwest of Vienna. The guy who has the vineyard actually inherited the vineyard when he was 18 from his dad, who passed away early. And he was learning how to make wine in France at the time. So his dad sent him off to France to learn how to grow grapes and make wine. His dad passed away. He came back to the vineyard and took over the vineyard. And he's been doing that for a while. And I read up on the wine itself. It's supposed to be, or I think I just mentioned, like a bit of a stronger Pinot Noir. So we'll see how we go. I can try and pronounce the grape names if you want, but I tell you what, it's a hang on. One grape's called I can't find it now. Would you believe?
Yeah, I'd believe it.
Don't worry about it.
I have a French one, some Chapoutier 2018 Crow's Hermitage. Again, it's from the Côte du Rhône, so it's about 250 k's from the south of France. And then, so the history is very simple. That part of France, it's big in wine. It actually started over 2,000 years ago through the Greeks. And the Chapoutier started their own winery some 200 years ago, 212 years ago, or 14. So you look at that and you go, hold on, that's almost as old as Australia.
Yeah.
And you look at the history, how these people just keep on doing the same thing over 214 years.
So what is Chapoutier, Thomas? Is that the name of the
So
wine?
that's, yeah. So M. Chapoutier is Michel Chapoutier. So that's the winemaker.
The maker of one of the nicest wines we've ever had on this podcast, mind you, back in the day.
Wow.
The Chardonnay that you bought in.
That 2012 Chardonnay that we all had. Yeah.
So that's still reputed as the best white wine in the world.
Chateau Alouette, the Chanté Alouette.
That's correct. Yeah. So now we're just having something that is from Crow's Hermitage. That's
Right.
good.
How do you reckon, who discovered alcohol from grapes, do you reckon? Who was the absolute legend? Have they gone down in history as one of the greatest people ever? Or you think about how, like Thomas just pointed out, that wine's almost as old as Australia. And you read about olden times, it was water into wine in Jesus' time. Who first worked out that if you squash enough grapes and leave them sitting around for long enough, you can get pissed?
Well, probably the Greeks.
Yeah.
But none of us know. None of us actually know.
The Greeks.
That's how it works.
I just want to know, because most discoveries are by accident, right? So who accidentally discovered they left their grapes out?
Yeah, here we go on the iPad. He's Googling.
My wine, even though it scores fairly highly on Vivino, is less about the wine and more about the story behind how I got it. It's a Wirrawara 2020 Church Block from McLaren Vale. It's actually a Cab Sav Shiraz Merlot, so it's got absolutely everything in it. A nice blend. This was actually a birthday present from one of my staff, but the story, this fella's dad passed away in August last year, and this was the red wine that they always used to drink together. So he said, I don't know much about wine, but I know this is the one me and Dad used to hoe into, so have a go. So thank you, Steve-O, and a sentimental touch.
That's lovely.
And let's do it. You're all right, Theo, you got the long COVID, mate.
Cheers.
Isn't it
Cheers,
funny?
boys.
Cheers.
That's lovely.
Oh, that's nice too.
Mm.
So that's funny. I looked this up. It's like $26 a bottle, but it's a 4 on Vivino.
Wow.
So it's nice too.
Nice.
Isn't it funny that COVID's gone and the flu's back and we haven't shut down the country? The flu's absolutely,
That's true.
absolutely smashing everybody.
Mm.
Everybody. Anyway, it's not funny because it's ridiculous. All right. Topic.
And one thing for sure, so that you guys know, if you're traveling soon, the country is still crazy, right? You know, a few weeks ago, I went back to Belgium. To get out, they checked me left, right, and center. Do you have this? Do you have that? I got into Belgium, and I'm going, I need to get into Belgium. Would you like to see this? No. Would you like to see that? No. Just go.
Wow.
But now to get out of Belgium at the Qatar counter, do you have this? Do you have that form? Are you serious? I'm going home. Do you have this? Do you have that form? The guy next to me, he didn't, and he really put on a really good show. I don't know what they've done, but they must have logged in his name as Troublemaker, because as soon as we arrived in Sydney, they got it. So that poor guy, because he didn't have one of the forms that they really wanted, they just took him on the side. He had to leave with an officer, and I'm sure they probably wasted about 3 or 4 hours of his life. You know, so we go anywhere. There's no problem. In this country where there's so much, what is it? Freedom and space and everything. We just stuffing around with this. It's actually give you more anxiety about traveling than being overseas itself, you know, or being on the plane itself.
Wow. Wow.
Someone's making money off it. That's
So don't talk too much about the flu, because they might do that.
Oh, monkeypox, mate. Monkeypox. It looks like Chris has already got it. He's so hairy, mate.
I haven't evolved, mate, but I can climb a tree really well.
All right, let's get into this week.
Topic: do we live by our own rules or somebody else's? Short question, big answer. There's actually a conversation with TL that sort of raised it for me, and that was about my birthday party. And he said to me, he said, "You taught me a lesson." I said, "What was that?" He said, "Well, in that room you had everyone that cared." Hey, he didn't say that. He's hiding behind
what? Everybody cared?
He's hiding behind it. He had a room full of people that have, apart from TL, there was a room full of people who cared about me, right? And he said, the lesson you've taught me is that you don't have to invite everyone just because. It is actually possible to just have people that are special to you in a room on a special occasion. When, you know, I said it a couple of weeks ago, my birthday list was 50 strong, but there was only 5 members of a 100-member family there. And that was not because I don't like people or don't get along with people, but I think we give out too many participation trophies even amongst friends and family, you know, weddings of 200 people where there's only sort of 10 people that should be there, and birthdays are the same. And you know, at my wedding, our wedding, it was more financial based, but we had a very strict list of who was invited, and it was the same thing. Most of my family wasn't there. And that taught me the same thing. They don't have to be. You don't have to. And so society says that we've got to invite everybody or make everyone a part of it just because. My rule is no, we don't. So along those lines, how much stuff do we do because it's actually one of our rules, and how much stuff do we do because it's imposed by society or the expectations of others?
Yeah, 100% can.
The wedding thing, mate. The wedding thing for me, mate. It's a very good point, because when Rita and I got married, it's a traditional wog wedding of 200 odd people. I probably only knew less than half of the people in the room, or I've only met the other over the rest of them probably once, maybe twice in my entire life, and I've never seen the majority of those people again.
How much did that wedding cost?
Oh, back then, well, I mean, we're talking 23 years ago, with bloody cheap back then, but all together are 40 grand or something.
Right. So you spent half of that on people that you didn't know.
Oh, back then, the in-laws pay for their side, my parents pay for their, what my Rita and I pay.
I get it. I get
that sort of thing. But you're right.
But it's a consequence of it, right?
Absolutely.
It's a consequence of it.
Yeah, but hold on. You have to also understand that the wedding, but the traditional way, is not what Veronique and I stuffed up, which is Veronique and Thomas are inviting you to the wedding. The traditional wedding is Mr. and Mrs. Dinola and Mrs. and Mrs.
Loffo
are inviting you, right, to celebrate the wedding of their children. Yes. And so it is an opportunity for the parents to almost show off that, hey, I have succeeded in bringing a man or woman to this state of life. And so, yes, the parents wanted to pay for it. And yes, probably there's a lot of people you don't know, but it was mainly for parents to really have a 15-minute celebration of what they've done of your life.
Same question though, is that getting married by your own rules or getting married by your parents' rules? Then is that?
Yeah, no, it's getting married. Yeah, it's getting married by the parents' rules, but it's also getting married by your wife's rules, because that's Rita wanted for me, I could have given a rat's ass. I wanted a celebration, but I didn't care if it was 10 people of my closest friends or 200. But it was what Rita wanted, it's what the parents wanted, it was what expected. So I was living by someone else's rules. I had one rule throughout the whole thing, which is whatever decision Rita wants, don't let everyone else get in and change her mind. So that was my rule, but everything else I said, just have at it,
Yeah. I think we need to start really from somewhere first. So we can go back to your party and we can go back to your wedding. But I think that when I look at the question, do people really live by their own rules? I think the aim is to live by our own rules. But I have to say that, no, I don't think that anyone do live by their own rules. So I thought a little bit more. First of all, there's two things. Yes, some of us live by the rules, some of us don't live by the rules, some of us live by a certain amount of rules they set, and some of us don't. So why don't we just first define rules? So what is a rule to you? I mean, what is a rule to each of us?
I guess it's in a way, your GPS coordinates for how you live your life. In a set of dot points, a set of things, I guess, values. There's going to be a lot of words intertwined in rule, isn't there? Because is it your values? Is it your morals? Is it your ethics? But all those things combine to how you would like to live your life and the rules you set by it. That's that's a set of standards, and standards are different to rules as well, but all sort of comes into the same umbrella.
I think for me, a rule can be also called an expectation. I think it's a similar thing. We set these rules, but these rules can also be expectations. And then when we don't reach them or achieve them, or we know that we're actually reaching for them even though they're not the right rules, we sense a feeling, or your inner critic, I suppose. You realize you're not being authentic, or you set this expectation of what you expected it to be, or feel like, or sound like, or whatever. And I think that's because we set rules, like, for example, of I'll be happy when, and then you get the thing that you've set out to achieve, and you've expected when you get it, you're going to be feeling a certain way, and you don't. But you've probably set that rule in the first place, not because really what you want, but probably perhaps because of what you think others might think of you by achieving that, if that wasn't too miscommunicated. I'm trying to be mindful of how many words I use.
I think when it comes to rules, we've got to look at this. I think there's two sets of rules. There's our social rules and our internal rules. I think the social rules are dictated to us, and whether it's by our circle of friends, our society, or the government, there's a set of rules that we're going to live by, and that's just socially dictated to us. But our internal rules are the ones I think that, Lou, where you were touching on, where it's our own expectations of what we want to do within our own lives, and how happy are we to compromise on those sort of things. So there's some things that we won't compromise, and I think as we get older in life, our rules start to change, our rules start to bend a little bit, where we wanted to keep everyone happy. And Cam, you touched on it before. That's an expectation that's becoming less and less important to me as I get older. And I want to keep a few people happy and stay close to a smaller knit of people. So those rules change as we go along, but there's two sets of rules, our internal and our social, I think. But they also coincide when the social rules are your direct family and your friends and so forth. So those rules start to blend in with each other as well. So I think it's an evolving thing. Your rules are always going to evolve, and even when you start a new job and so forth, you learn a new set of rules within that company. And you touched on morals and values before, Cam. I think those also are going to dictate a lot of our rules as well. And again, if we're in a new group of people that their morals and things have changed, that's going to change our rules too, I think.
It's hard to nail down a definition though. Thomas, what do you got?
He's very hard to know.
I thought the first definition for rules is it's if something happens then. And so, for example, if my children are happy, then I'll be happy. That's a set of rules. Yes. Or if my children become someone respectable in life and do good in life, then it means I have done very good parenting. It's a rule. So it's an if-then rule with actions and being. I then also thought there's another set of rules, which is I will be happy if. So for example, if I went to your birthday, you'd say, I'll be happy if I could celebrate that night with just people who would matter to me in life. I would be happy if I could invite only the people that I would want around me if I was on my deathbed. So that is the rules of I'll be happy if. Then I thought there would be also, there's a set of rules of this must happen the way I want. So that is a set of rules now where we're imposing how the external world has to happen to us and for us to accept those conditions. Then I had the fourth definition that is that this is what I want, right? I want to make money. So the rule for me is if there's a bit of money, I want more than anybody else. If there's a little bit of money there, even if it's my brother, I don't want him to have it. I have. So that to me, once I have defined those four style of rules, then now I can see the next bit. And the next bit for me is there's two groups of rules. There's the rules where it is a two-way rules. If I did that to you, Cam, that will meet the criteria, but then I expect you to do that to me too. Then there is the one-way rules, which is when I do it to you, it has to be that way, but careful, when you do it to me, it has to be a bit different. And so you have four style divided into two categories, if you will.
So it's almost, I mean, Western society was founded on rules, wasn't it? The 10 Commandments, isn't that the first set of rules that were imposed on us? And it's, you've almost even, anyone who, what percentage of the population would you suggest are actually able to live by their own rules and their rules alone?
Very many.
Not many, but I think Thomas hit the nail on the head when he mentioned that, you know, there are a lot of people have the two sets of rules, and one for themselves and one for someone else.
One of TL's favourite songs is "I Did It My Way," right? Does anyone really do it their way?
I don't think so, in my opinion.
Is it impossible to do it? Is it impossible to do it your way? Chris, you mentioned before your wedding was whatever Rita wanted, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's in a marriage sense. Is there me rules, us rules, group rules, wider population rules? Are they the four different type of rules we have as far as where they went? And do we contradict ourselves on our us rules to then have a we rule? Does someone who has a rule about, I really want to do this for a job, but there's pressure on to be home at a certain time or do a different thing, is that living by your rules or an us rule that's not really agreed, or someone else imposing their rule on you? It gets very convoluted. Does anyone do it their way?
I think people having the intention to do it their way until the barriers that to do it their way are greater than their ability to overcome them. Like, you know, if somebody wants to change careers, but financially they're unable or they can't see a way of doing it and so forth. So they can't see a way to change that rule for themselves. Sometimes people may need a hand to see a different way of doing it. But even though, a lot of us, well, most of us, a lot harder on ourselves, and our rules for ourselves are a lot harder than the rules we have on other people too. So there's a double standard in rules as well, I believe, that, you know, we expect so much of ourselves sometimes, but we don't sometimes expect so much of others. Maybe is it because we've been let down by other people, we've come to learn not to rely on them, but and so forth, I don't know.
I think
I personally believe that nobody lives by their own rules.
No.
I personally believe that every one of us have got constraint in life because we are social animals, and by social animal it means that it's about compromise, making compromise. And probably to contradict Chris, I even think that the rules that we make for ourselves, whenever things are a bit tough, we break them. I've seen people who swear that they're so loyal, and then when the shit hits the fans, it's like, oh, sorry, mate, I have to go. I'm very sorry I have to tell you this way, but I have to go right now because really, you know, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. I'm pushed, and I'm sorry. It's the norm out there. I don't believe that people even want to live by rules. You have a look at the number of people who every single day, even the four of us, every single day we break rules. We are not very good animals when it comes to abiding by rules. And I don't really believe anyone who says, I sat down and I thought, who would really live by the rules in our times? And I was thinking, what about Donald Trump? Is Donald Trump the kind of guy that lives by his own rules? And I'm thinking, no, he doesn't. Because if he did, he would have asked people to just get rid of Joe Biden and for him to stay. So he himself stays by certain rules, and he himself does certain things by certain rules. So I don't think that anybody on this planet lives by their own rules.
Is part of me trying to?
Everyone wants to try. Everyone says to try. Even Chris, I think, lives by his own rules. Chris lives by the set of rules that Rita gave him on the list on his wedding night. On his wedding night, he received a list of this is Chris rules.
I've got it tattooed on my chest now, so I don't forget them. So
when you go one step deeper, though, guys, when you think about it, and I'm just thinking about this right now, where do our rules come from? Do our rules come from our beliefs? Do they come from our upbringing? Where do we even, when do we even set those rules? And what makes your rules or my rules or anyone else's rules right and yours wrong? I think what happens, and the sad thing is I think we end up building our lives and our personalities to some extent by the rules, expectations, as well as the definitions that society gives us. And I think definitions is probably a key word there, because you only have to look at social media with young girls, for example. You know, you've got to be size 6, have big ass lips and, you know, fake hair and all the rest, like it, and then you'll be beautiful. Like, are you kidding me? What a load of crap, you know. And I think these are rules that, and you see it with these young people. I was having this discussion with Eddie in my team today about how, you know, how he's got 2 teenage daughters and how horrified he is to see that they're just constantly fed this stuff through social media and magazines and everywhere. You've got to be a certain way and then you'll be beautiful, because if you don't look like that, you're an ugly duckling. Like, what a joke, you know. And so where do our rules even come from? Where, like, because we're not.
It started with the 10 Commandments, and I think our own rules are, I think, designed by our own experience. You know, for me, I just got fed up with having to.
Is it fitting in? Like, do we create rules to fit in?
Fit in. Well, you follow social norms, right? But I didn't want to invite. I didn't want to invite 150 people to my wedding who I don't really have a connection with, right? And so everyone's rules are defined by their own experiences. I guess there might be people who want 150 people at their wedding that don't give a shit about them. That might be their rule. But I think society creates many rules, and it depends on how internally reflective you are or how much intestinal fortitude you've got, whether you'll buck the trend. We'll follow, you know, and without getting into religious debate, religious people will follow a book written that in a lot of cases is completely crazy, like, you know, fish into bread and water into wine and coming back to life 3 days after you're dead, or finding hidden tablets buried under a tree, if in the case of a certain religion, right? Clearly because, and follow mental rules because they want to belong to something or whatever it is. But
yeah, but that's a very good point though, Cam. So why do people in that religious world, is it exactly that? Do they follow that rule or set that rule because they want to fit in? So is that why?
Oh, I mean, it'd be hard to decide. There'd be many different. I mean, I was raised a Catholic, right? But okay, so I was raised a Catholic. At some point, I realised it was bullshit, and I decided, no, it's bullshit. But then, many more people than me decided, no, that's faith and that's gospel. Pardon the pun, and that's what we're going to believe in. So it just depends. I think we all have an inner compass and an inner being, and if we choose to, some people choose to ignore what their rules are. I think we've all got rules inside us, and some people choose to ignore what their actual rules are. Some people will do it for the love of another. I'm going to forego everything I want to do in life because I'm scared of being alone or scared of being without this person, or I'm going to stick so solidly to my own rules that I'll die alone anyway. It goes in many different directions. It's such a loaded question, but if we look at career, for example, we look at job, we look at real estate. One of the things that we always say to people is that you need a supportive partner. If you don't have a supportive partner in the industry that we're in, it's going to be very hard to succeed. And how many of us know people who don't have that supportive partner, or are extremely supportive until they come home at 7 o'clock one night, and then all that support sort of runs out the window. Then all of a sudden the rules change. Right, so go back to my question, is it impossible to live by your own rules, and what does it take to, at least, I guess you've got to understand what your rules are before you can start trying.
I think as all humans, doesn't matter who you are, what religion, we have that tribe mentality. We know there's security in tribes. We spoke about it before when we were talking about values a few podcasts ago. And we know if we break away from those tribal rules, we start to become an outcast. And it's the same in society now. You break those rules, you get put in a big concrete box. And if you break the rules within that big concrete box, you get put in a small concrete box, right? So there's consequences for working on the outside of those rules. Now, you're within that constraint, you're going to find little groups that have different rules within those rules to yours. That'll be your little village. That'll be your little.
Isn't it funny that they're everywhere?
Oh, it's everything we do.
Everywhere. People, they say that the 1%ers, right, with the risk of getting shot, the 1%ers are bikie gangs, and they're people who don't want to follow the rules and want to live life their own way, except
their own
bikie
rules.
Gangs have some of the most rigid rules, and some of the darkest consequences for breaking them,
right?
More than general society. So is it?
But from bikie gangs to religion, they all have their own set of rules, right?
Catholicism, you do the wrong thing, you actually go to hell and get burned.
Right.
That's fairly substantial, but in a sense of a gang, you actually physically die, right?
Right.
You're dead. You're gone. It's happening all over Sydney as we speak. So all these people are doing it their way and rebelling, and I live by my own rules. Sorry, you're full of shit. Is that not the conclusion? Like, is that?
I think no one can live by their own rules all the time. I think we've got to live within our belief of our guides that we want to achieve. But you can never live by your own rules all the time, because if you did and you were a rat bag, you'd have to be punished by someone else's rules.
I tried.
So their rules would be a consequence upon yourself.
I tried probably from the age of 17 to 23. I was trying my absolute hardest to just live by absolutely my rules and nobody else's. It didn't end well. It did not end well. There was nearly caged boxes. There was nearly concrete boxes and everything in between. And that was just trying to rebel against having so many rules, I think, to begin with. At the end of the day, it was to be hell with all of it. Let's do it. There's definitely, it's from someone who's tried, I don't think it's possible to completely live by your own rules. You can exist, but you can't live.
Can I ask you this? Do you think people that, like the Donald Trumps and Joe Bidens and whoever else in the world, maybe bend a few of the rules to their will to succeed in life? And they manipulate rules, bend rules, manipulate rules. And is that the only way to succeed? Is that the only way to succeed?
They live by whatever rule they had to live to get into power. So their rule
happens with real estate agents, right? Legally, we're not supposed to knock on someone's door who's got an active agency agreement, who's got a sign out the front. But we all know of agents that do it, right? There's a set of rules that are broken. Is it those agents that then are going to be successful, or are those agents the ones that have to, maybe they're breaking their own internal rules? I don't know. I mean, everyone's breaking them all the time.
Yeah. And like I said before, sorry, you go, Thomas.
I don't think that the breakage of rules is testament to whether you're going to be successful or not.
Good.
And the breakage of rules is just mainly someone looking for some easier way of doing things.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that the word value has been mentioned now 2 or 3 times now in the podcast, and I don't think that values are rules. I think that values dictates the rules that we set.
Yes.
But values are way higher in the hierarchy than rules.
Yeah. Rules
are there for us to still survive or live with ourselves when we do break them. For example, loyalty. If he does that for me, then it means that he's loyal to me, right? However, even if he's done 10 things good by me and he does one wrong thing, then he's disloyal to me. So that's why I am now disloyal to him. And because you have those 2 rules working against the first rules that you said, you're okay with breaking that rule. And so rules are actually pretty weak because people can make them up. And where you can see rules being very weak are the relationship between parents and children. How many times don't you have rules so strict until the kid's got a car, and now you dilute the rule a bit. And then the kid doesn't come home, and so now you sit down with the kid and you dilute even more. You put even more milk in this chocolate, and right at the end of the, you don't even realize, but it's his own rule, you know. And to answer one of the questions that you guys asked earlier, like who sets those rules? But I think it is the society. Yeah. We talked about the bikie gangs, we talk about the religions, but it is society. You go into a Western society, it's a very different set of rules. In the movie 7 Years in Tibet, and there's a book by Heinrich, the Austrian alpinist, who was playing a game and he wanted to win. And one of the ladies from Tibet looked at him and says, "You Westerners are very funny. You can't just enjoy the moment. You just have to do something to win. What for?" You know? And I think that because in that society, it's not what defines you, where in our society, it defines us. So really what sets the rules depends on the society. Our society wants what? Our society wants success, possessions, reputation, respect, fame, and therefore now all our rules has to be around getting those.
Absolutely.
You know, like the rules that Cam set, for example, for his birthday party was around like, who do I invite? Did I say I will spend money on? and because I get the love back. So he does follow a certain set of rules in order to decide this is a thing. But once he's made the decision, it's very easy to say, yeah, it's my rule. But then you will see the day that his daughter gets married, that he probably, and she said, no, I want to invite these people. And he goes, well, no, you will see how fast he'll dilute that rule, because now it's okay to dilute. So I was sitting down and I thought about rules. Actually, yes, they do change, but they do change because of our life circumstance. The people who can follow their own rules the most are single. Single young or single old, right? And but the moment that you are in a couple, the moment you have a family, it's a dilution of rules, constant.
Yeah.
The dilution and trying to think of a better word than sacrifice or annihilation are different words, right? Of course, 100% agree. As soon as you've got more people around you or more people dependent on you, or you're dependent on more people, those rules should dilute. Probably should is a better word. Should dilute, but should you have to give up completely your own rules? I mean, we know people who, for want of a better term, have their balls in their wife's handbag. We know people who have given up potentially successful careers because they were getting pressure from people within their circle. It is okay to still have your rules, I believe, remembering that when we get into a relationship, you had those rules when you met, right? You had those rules when you met. So someone telling someone, no, you need to quit your job because you don't get home till 7 o'clock. Society would say, or on the other side, no, you have to stay at home and watch the kids, right? It goes both ways, because I'm sure there's many a mother or father who has wanted to be something in life, but the rules were, no, you have to watch the kids, right? Yes. So just make sure this isn't a biased conversation. But dilution of rules, yes. Giving up your rules. If you have things that you espouse to and things that you want to be in life, that should never be given up one wholly and solely for another person. Otherwise, that relationship probably wasn't meant to be. And I'm not talking necessarily intimate, I'm talking friendship. One of the things we talk about is people's association, right? So if you've got dead shit friends who are bagging you for working too much, then that's probably not a relationship that wants to be.
Do you know the thing that probably scares me the most as a mother and watching the young children come through is, I think for all of us here, I think we probably know that we have rules. I don't think we even know what most of our rules are or all of our rules are, but I know that we probably know we have some. What scares me today with the kids growing up is the world is so fast paced and in your face that I don't even know that people actually know their rules. I think they just tick superficial boxes to keep up with the Joneses and to meet the definitions and the expectations that society puts on them. I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of that happens, that people don't even know their own rules, to be honest. That's what I think.
It keeps coming back to society imposed rules. I get it. But if we go deeper, let's talk about in a marriage or a relationship, let's talk about in a career sense. Let's talk about where one person's rule is, I've got to take over the world, and the other person's rule is, would really love you to spend more time with the kids. Let's talk about, where do rules come into everyday life? Where do they come into our offices? Where do they come into our staff? Where do they come into in a career sense? It's very hard, very easy to want to take over the world when you're single, which is why I implore any staff we ever have that are young and single to just run like hell, because that's all going to change one day. And then dilution of your rules, dilution of your wants and needs, because it has to meet the relationship. So where does that come into it?
Yeah, well, I think then where does the question is it easier to live by society's rules, because it takes a hell of a lot of courage to live by your own rules? You know, like, I think unfortunately, because of the definition, expectations and everything that society puts on a lot of people numb their own feelings and their own thoughts, and they just say what they think people want to hear, as opposed to say what they feel they should say, to their own detriment sometimes. You know, I really think that's a thing. Like, I've been in a situation where I've even thought, that's not my authentic self speaking. That's me telling this person what they want to hear, which now, older, wiser, I understand that was the wrong thing. But how many people do that? Because it's easier to fit in than to stand out for the wrong reason, you know?
We're going to dilute our rules when we merge with someone else, because when you combine with someone else, you're taking two sets of rules into one. They've got to be compromises. I think, and that's probably why a lot of marriages fail, is that people don't communicate very clearly before they get married. I know Rita and I had a lot of conversations about that before we got married, about her career and, you know, what was expectations on each other and so forth. So if people don't do that, this is only going to create angst and issues once they do join a family in a marriage, whether doesn't matter how old you are, if you haven't had those conversations. So compromise is wherever you go. You've got to compromise on certain things. But I think the biggest thing is people have to look at the other side of the coin. If it's not your rule, because if it's not your way, doesn't mean it's the wrong way. And I think I mentioned to you before that I had an issue today where someone's done something I have in my rule said, no, prejudge them. This is my decision on that. But after a few good conversations, I thought to myself, I don't know what's her story, what the story is in the behind the scenes of that. So I need to adjust my thought process on that. My rule, stop living by my rule, because her rule may be different.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's now a compromise on my point. But I had to take the time, I had to take 5 to 10 minutes. Yes, it took me that long, just to stop and think about, you know, what was on the other side of that coin. And I don't think a lot of people do that. They're so quick to judge everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Be nice, everybody. Someone's going through something different than you. Seriously.
Something I learned.
I think that you said something very smart, Chris, because
First time for everything.
only when you let go of your rules and start looking at her rules, you can understand why she said what she said.
Absolutely.
How are you supposed to let go of them when people write books like 12 Rules for Life? Like, literally, we've studied the book. No, but I'm serious. There's so many people trying to give us their rules, and then he wrote a book called 12 More Rules for Life. Like,
but Ken, what's your favorite book? What's it called?
The Four Agreements.
What's rule number one? What's agreement number one?
Be impeccable with your word.
Number two?
Don't take things personally.
No, that's number three, isn't it? You're responsible for everything in your life.
No. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best.
Don't make assumptions. I'm assuming that my rule should be right for everyone, right? I'm making that assumption.
Yeah.
I'm making the assumption that my rule's right. Forget for everyone that my rule is right. My rule could be bullshit. My rule could be wrong.
Yeah.
We need to have the intelligence to sit down and go, hang on, maybe that's not the right way.
And a good example of exactly that, I think I brought this up in a podcast previously, but it was a situation where it was a lady's birthday and she expected this big hoo-ha from the husband and whatever else. He went to work, said happy birthday and walked out the door. No big, good morning, here's a present, la, 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 la. And when she nutted it out, what she realized was her expectation of how he should have reacted to her birthday was her rule, but that wasn't his rule. It was, and what let her down was her expectation of him being or living her rule, which that's his life and he doesn't share that same rule, so to speak. And I think in relationships especially, women can have a rule and men can have a rule, and what lets you down is not necessarily their reaction or what they did, it's the expectation that you put on or them that you expected to receive.
Your rule.
Exactly.
Your rule.
How do we tie it into work? How do we tie it into real estate? How do we have rules? How do our rules? We're all owners of a business here, right?
Yeah.
How do our rules affect the staff? I'm interested in TL's point. Hang on, he's been too
There you go. Yeah, that's fickle.
I think that rules are circumstantial anyway. So far, I'm hearing that, we can't live by our own rules. And people make up rules as they go. So in real estate, it's not about rules. It's about, you're gonna have to find out what's happy. but for a person.
Mm.
One of the things that I have realized is most people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So how are you going to ask people who don't know what they make, what their makeup is, who they are, to make up rules for themselves?
Mm.
It's not possible, guys, right?
Or follow your rules, right? Because
So yeah, no. So this is the thing. If in society, if you don't know who you are, then most likely society or another group or a religious group or a gang, whatever it is, they will impose, and you will have to embrace their rules, because if you don't know who you are, you might as well just embrace whatever you can.
Mm.
And so in real estate, I think one of the first things that leaders must do is to really spend the time and find out and having a conversation with the person while they're doing their job to help them find out who they are, because they will clarify their rules.
Mm.
Now, if your rules is towards a positive, and that is about enhancing the other person, so I don't care about really what the 10 commandments are about, but I bet you when you look into the whole lot, it's about how to live life on certain values that enhances position, enhances whatever situation you're in. Then I think it is possible to find out why certain people are certain ways. I mean, for the moment, I'm reading a book on the psychology of money. And in chapter 1, what he's talking about is everyone has got a psychology of money. The way that you have grown up with money will tell you how you behave with money. For example, they spoke to John Kennedy when he was alive and said to him, do you remember how was your family during the Depression? And he said, Depression? We got actually richer. We got bigger house. We got more people working for us. And so for him, money, it's nothing. Money is just a commodity that comes. But for a guy like me, whose parents have lost their business twice, fled their own country once, and then fled the second country again, and struggled for years, I have been groomed up with looking at lack, looking at money as a struggle, looking at money, and it's so hard for me to really try and change that psychology. And so therefore my rules are going to be different. Now, answering your question, Cam, what if then you have a John Kennedy working for you, and then you have a Thomas working for you? Suddenly you have two set of rules that are different just about money. Suddenly now, the way you set commissions, the way you pay me commissions is going to be very different style, yes? And you will probably have me, if I just make a commission, like, I would probably pray for God to look after you and make you like immortal, where John Kennedy would have probably sat down with you and said, you serious? Is that all you're talking about? When can I have your check? And so we have very different than set of rules already. So only when a leader knows the history of a person, and I talk about money because money is big in real estate. To me, the real leader in real estate is quite often the money, because in most real estate offices, the leader is absent. The leader in most real estate offices is nothing else but a 400-pound gorilla who happens to own the business. So whatever he says goes. And therefore, there is no leadership. There is no one taking the time to sit down and go, all right, what is this person about? How can I just get that person to see that their rules do not have to be broken to do well here?
So, yeah, you kind of answered my next question, which was, do we think, not just in real estate, but in all employment, the boss has a set of rules, and it's either you adapt to my rules or else? How many do you think most don't? Acknowledge the fact that everyone coming into your office or your factory or whatever it is has their own set of rules as well.
I think that's the culture that we talk about often within a business. There's culture is the unset and written rules, right? The unwritten set of rules, not the unset written rules within a business, right? And you come into that business, you get molded into that set of rules. Oh, you don't touch my lead, I won't touch your lead. You don't farm my area, I won't farm your area. There's the unset, and then there's the written set of rules within that business.
No, I just mean rules of being, like even on the flip side. So you try and be positive, right? You turn your office into a Google where everyone's sitting on Swiss balls and playing PlayStation and doing whatever. That's us assuming that that's a rule that everybody lives by, to have fun like that. But that's not going to be the case either.
And some people are going to want, an hour lunch, 2 hour lunch to go occasionally to go and have a nice meal with the staff.
Some people are going to want no noise, so they're going to be different and make calls. Right? So as leaders, do we really? And obviously it's very hard. You got 50 employees, very, very hard to have 50 people with different rules and cater to all of them. So or in an office of four people with a different set of rules, how can you possibly cater to that?
I think what Thomas said earlier is you've got to be a leader that sits down and knows your people.
But you can't run a business 4 different ways.
No, you can't, but you can run people 4 different ways. You've got to be flexible, and you've got to adapt. You've got to be able to know what drives the individual, and know, and whether it's a mindset around money, relationship, hard work or connection or flexibility, whatever. You've got to know their rules, but you've got to know their values, and you've got to know their goals. It just boils down to, you've got to understand.
But how do you cater to all of that? So in extreme examples, right? Someone who has to have fun, someone who wants no fun. How do you cater to that?
Cam, I don't think you cater to everyone. I think those people will compromise their rules if you're a leader that's inspiring and that's showing them a way to where they want to go. Those people will compromise their rules. And I think if you're a leader that can do that, you will intrinsically understand those people and know how to have no fun or how to have the fun or whatever with those people.
I think it's also like knowing your people, but they also know that, okay, a business has rules. Like, we have rules that we're legislated by. We have culture rules. We have, rules that we have to follow just so we don't break the law, kind of thing. But I think you got to give the people the flexibility and the freedom to be themselves, but understand them and what drives them. I think if you do it that way, it's not such a hard thing. But if you're the leader that goes in and, like Thomas said, 400-pound gorilla, and it's his way or the highway, and it's this, and everybody's crap, and that's impossible. That's impossible. I just don't. People might stay in the short term, but you're not going to have loyal employees, or you're going to have people breaking the rules.
I'll give you 2 analogies. One from my mum. She said, how do you deal with your children when one is so thin and skinny, you have to feed him all the time, and the other one puts on weight in a split second that you have to tell him to stop eating?
Yeah, good.
So you come up as a mother with one set of rules? No. Right? This is what we eat, and this is when we eat, and this is the quantity. And second analogy, a business is almost like a car. I'm not going to say Formula 1 car, because that straight away that I'd be wrong, but it's like a car. And you look around and you need 4 tires, 4 wheels. Well, you're not going to say, unless the wheels has got a red stripe, I'm not having it, right? So because you have to get your car from A to B, it's up to you to find a way to fit the wheels and then get the car there safe. So that's what it comes down to. It boils down to having, to answer your question, Cam, a business leader must have minimum rules, maximum flexibility. So the only rules is get to targets. The only rules is meet your target. Yes, the way you're going to go there. If you want to do it fun way, I'm with you. Now, you want to do it the hard way, I'm with you. And that is great leadership. And I think that the COVID-19 has really gone the manpower to realize how strong they are now. Now, they've got so much more say, and now that they have lived through 2 years of seeing their leaders like almost canning them, closing the shop on them, stopping paying them as soon as it happened, and they still survived. They went, oh, gee, I'm still alive. Now I know I can live and I can survive without him.
So
So
how does-
now manpower knows, now I'm going to set my own rules. So if a leader is not flexible with rules in the future, his business will not survive.
So how does someone who's been in it since 1926 and this is how I did it and this is how I was brought up, same as parents, right? I think I quote the same thing to parents. A lot of people try and raise their kids the same way they were raised, right? But
You don't have to go far. You don't have to go far, Ken. Just 2 seconds and you can continue. There are leaders right now who are telling people, man, I don't understand why they shouldn't be doing 100 calls. When I started, I had to do 100 calls every day. So don't have to go far.
right, thank you. But I haven't said that for at least a week. So
I didn't say it was you, by the way.
now, well, definitely wasn't me because it was 150 or you were sacked when I started. Right? So, but that's that's not about how. But how does someone who's entrenched in that, a parent or a business leader, this is how I did it. This is what I know works because I know this works because I did it. Right. My parents raised me this way, and look at me. I'm awesome, right? I'm not saying me, Thomas. You don't have to go far. It's okay. But how does someone break that mentality? They go broke to start with because if they don't, they're going to go broke, right? But
You don't have to break it, Cam. If you look through history, and I thought that Darwin had actually proved that case already, right? Is that most of those guys will end up being a fossil. You will see those guys by their desk, fossilized one of these days, because that's what they thought business was going to be.
yeah, but how does someone who's even started to fossilize change it, right? Because we see that. We all know people who are starting to look like a relic that's been dug out of a trench somewhere in the mid-East Asia where the Tyrannosaurus Rex was last sighted, right? We know this. But how?
I think we're talking about another subject here. I think that if that person's got too much pain,
No, they've got to change their rules.
No. If that person's got a lot of pain in their life, they will change. If the most inflexible guy, if he needs his business to go well because his wife is about to be operated and he needs $1 million to send her to America and get the operation, he will change his rule, right? If a guy has been in business since 1927, as you said, and he's comfortable and he's got his 20 houses and he will not be that flexible. So as much as I'm looking into a recruit's life in order to see how is it that I can really get the best out of it, when to answer your question, I have to look into the leader's life. So this leads me to the point I'm trying to make earlier, which is rules are circumstantial. They change because your life changes. I guarantee you, they are. If I took 10 of your top rules, and you went back to 20 years ago, they're totally different to what they were.
Absolutely.
I still won't drink VB.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I still won't drink VB.
That and Crown, forget that.
Oh, that's just glorified VB.
Yeah.
The only time I ever say no to a client, he says, "Do you want a beer?" And I see him walking with VB. I've got to go, "Oh, sorry, mate, I'm really not feeling well."
It's a funny thing, you know. When I went back to Belgium, my brother-in-laws, they brought all the best Belgian beer to my parents, and then we had some of the heaviest BBs that I have never heard of, even in Belgium, in Australia. And all I asked them was the equivalent of Foster's and VBs. That's what I asked them. And they looked at me, it's like, are you serious? I said, see, that stuff or that kind of stuff I had, but then this thing here, I will never have a mass in Australia. There's no way I'll get a mass. So, and I'm yearning for this, you know, and that, so where 10 years ago, I wouldn't even touch that stuff. I'd go, no, I just want the best Trappist, the best one beer from those kind of mounts. So my rules even changed.
I was gonna ask, and I can put you on the spot. Doesn't matter whether you like it or not. You haven't always been known as the most flexible bloke ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
you've spoken about it before. You've had very, very strict standards for a very long time, and a set of rules that for a long time were very rigid. And back to my question before about how does someone who's turning into a fossil, I wasn't saying you were turning into a fossil, mate, but if
I'd love to be a fossil. I'd love to be a fossil.
If the shoe fits, wears it. So as someone who was so rigid in their rules for such a long time, I don't know if it was pain that made you change that, or helped you, or made you think maybe the rules need to bend a little bit. What helped you understand that maybe the rules need to bend a little bit?
Oh, it's a good question, but I think that it's going to be a very long answer. I don't know.
That's all right. Well, I'm used to always.
I would say that the in short answer is because I see more benefit in changing. I think that intelligent people are okay to change their mind.
But for a long time, you weren't.
No, for a long time, I did. I changed people. I mean, if I can't change the rules, I change people.
The rules didn't change. People changed. So
yeah, that's right.
Where was there a shift in? You're going to start running out of people, or?
And I'm sure, like my mother is saying, you know, as I get older and older, and I probably visit my friends for the last time at the cemetery, I'll have less people to replace with. Therefore, I'll probably even be more flexible with my rules. But at this point in time here, I think that I see more benefit. Also, I've done a lot of work on myself, and I also realized that a lot of my rigidity came from my fear of people. I think that I've received such a heavy, I won't say traumatized, but in many ways I probably would say that if someone said that to me, I'd say traumatized, but such a heavy upbringing that there's a lot of rules, because rules brought me security, and therefore being so strict to those rules, that's the only walls that I know of. And so now to be able to go out there and entertain it with other people, man, that is like almost breaking down my own walls and trying to see new faces, you know. And in order to do that, the only way you can do that is by increasing your inner security.
Yeah, 100%. I think too, and not in saying anything towards like that's Thomas's way or anything like that, but I think it's hard for men and women equally. Like, for example, men have been brought up that you don't cry and you don't show emotion and you've got to be tough and, you know, you got to fight and you got to do this and all the rest of it. And women, you know, the other end of the scale. So I think, unfortunately, we are taught or we learn to conceal a lot of who we really are. But I think as we get older, our life experiences and circumstances, and you just start to know that it's okay to be who you are and say what you feel and show emotion and do all the rest of it. I think, but unfortunately, what society does and the expectations and the definitions that are put on us is that if you're a bloke, you don't cry, and if you're a woman, you look after kids. You don't work. You stay at home and cook and clean and look after kids. Well, no, not today. You don't do that. But I think that's also what makes it hard as well. As it's hard to not go with the flow, but then you get older and you realize you want to go against, you know.
I think there's enough people now that have broken the mold for it to be easier for people to go to be their own. You look at gay rights and women's rights and the equality movement. Enough people and the anti-bullying and all that stuff. And I thank TL for sharing, but the word that I picked up on was security, and I can relate. Well, if you only got your own rules and they're extremely rigid, you're safe.
Yeah.
No one can hurt you, right? And it's not until you step outside that safe place and understand that you've still got two arms and two legs and you're still breathing, holy shit, then you can start to explore other rules or at least examine your own.
Yeah.
You know, people have, I will not jump out of a plane. That's a rule I have. I will not.
Come on, man. Come on. Let's all four of us do it.
I will not jump out of a plane.
At the same time.
Right?
Not
But
for-
if-
Well,
and-
your
and
rules
that's
are
my safe-
shit.
That's my safe little box. All right. And that's a menial, superficial example. But I'm sure if I did jump out of a plane and landed safely and had the time of my life, all of a sudden I'd be okay to jump out of a plane just quietly. It's not happening. But security is a thing. Security is what gives it to ourselves. And it's not until we realise one day, well, hang on, am I happy? Is my little box really safe? Because is it giving me the life I want, or the people around me the life they want?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think anyone who uses social pressure now to as an excuse for not doing what they want to do in life is using it as a cop out, because it's too easy. You can use social media, you can use this, you can use that. Social media is that easy to turn off that I could delete Facebook on my phone right now
I totally disagree with you.
in 2 seconds, right? There are enough, and as I just said, there are enough people who have carried the flag. There are enough people who have gone first. There was the first person to come out and say, I'm gay. There's the first person who came out and say, I want to be a woman. There's the first person who came out and said, I want to sit on a bus next to white people. It's all being done.
But then there's Ricky Gervais who said yes, but he's fought very hard to have the right never to be in a bus again.
But yeah.
What I mean is there's enough people who've done it before. And I know the fear might be there, but one of the things Thomas goes back to his books and his training manuals, feel the fear and do it anyway. There's enough people who've done it before. So if you really want, you can. If social media is really putting that much pressure on you, you can turn it off. It's very easy to turn it off.
But Cam, if it was that easy, social media is just like any other addiction: smoking, drugs, drinking, everything else. Seriously, if it was that easy, it is not. You've got teenage kids. I have teenage kids. Seriously, it is not easy. It is in your face. It's on your phone. It's on your TV. It's on your computer. It's on your radio. So what do you do? Not leave your bedroom and not walk out of your room and turn off.
I'm talking about rules that we live by. I'm not talking about at a kid's age who you really don't know who you are and you don't know what your rules are, right? I understood.
It's not.
Turn it off.
You can't not send your kids to school. You can't not send your kids to school and have.
No, but what I'm saying is, no, I'm not. Listen, Lou.
That's a total different conversation.
It's not. I'm not talking about children. Okay, children don't know what rules they're. Children live by the rules we give them, right? Which is more to my point. Children, especially, don't live by their own rules. They don't really have a choice in the matter. Okay. What I'm talking about is people of adult age who are saying, "Oh, society pressed me to do this," or "I feel peer pressured," or that. Is that easy to break that cycle? It's not even funny. The fear is still there. The fear is still there. But as I said, I can delete Facebook in 2 seconds. I realised at
would you?
15, 16 before I realised that the Bible was bullshit, right?
Could you delete Facebook right now? Hey? Would you and could you delete Facebook right now?
100%, not a chance, not a problem.
No way.
I'll do it right now for you.
I could, because I don't have Facebook anyway.
Hey, Lou, you picked the wrong person. Go and have a look.
Wait. I don't think that we need to go there. You need to think about this and decide, because here's my thing. Whether you delete Facebook or not, Louise, doesn't make a difference. And where I agree with Louise, it's gone way beyond that now. We're talking about rules. There are two major rules for the moment, and it's a cancel culture and woke. These are the two biggest set of rules right now on social media. You can delete your Facebook, and it doesn't matter, mate. What you do here now, what you do when you go and tell clients, what you do when you deal, you're still setting up other people who are now using that window of social media to transmit your message anyway. So it doesn't really matter, man. We have the time of canceling of getting rid of the social media, that's gone. Whoever has written get rid of social media, that is material of 2 years ago. The new material now, you can cancel whatever you want. Your life is now social media, period.
But blaming that for your rules.
Unfortunately,
Don't blame
No,
other people for your rules.
No, but the thing is,
I didn't
Ken,
think we'd find a way to argue on this topic, but I found one. You blame other people. Oh, it's the Bible told me to, the Bible told me to do it. Facebook told me to do it. My friends didn't like me.
no. But if
Ah,
we
no.
get back to the context of what we're talking about and people's rules, do people live by their own rules, or do they live by the rules that society and social media puts on them?
No, I
Absolutely.
think people live by other rules. But I'm saying to break that.
What social media says is you've got to look the part, sound the part, nice car, make $1 million. You've got to have the best house. You've got to have.
You know when we
your
say
kids
that,
are gonna-
guys, can I just,
blah, 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 blah.
we say that though, but you think about people in, like, even people that you know, or people that are, a few people that are famous, they stand out because they're different and they walk to their own set of rules. They don't conform. And those people, they may dress differently, they may talk differently, they got a little bit quirky. They've got their own sort of special rules.
Who's
And they're the people we remember.
Can I say something?
Whose rules do Elon Musk live by, mate?
But what I'm getting at is,
I agree
if
with
we
you.
all conform, hang on, let me finish.
Special
If we
ones
all
make the
conform-
rules. They don't follow the rules.
If we all conform, world's going to be a very boring place.
The special
If
people
we all
make the
conform as
rules.
all cookie cutter bloody people, we can't conform with each other. It's those special people.
Can
I mean, one of my new rules in life was the last few years is experience different things, because we had that security blanket, right, to protect ourselves. But those people that we know, their classmates, their workmates, they're famous people, people like Johnny Depp, people like Robin Williams was a little bit of a strange unit. They had these own special rules. Sorry?
Yeah.
They created.
Hollywood does that. Let's
they
Elon Musk, mate. Whose rules does he follow? The special
But
people,
again, Elon
the
Musk,
special
people
people-
like that. There's lots of them.
special people make the rules. They don't follow the rules.
No,
That's right, but then the rest of the world follows the
Yeah,
rules.
they do.
even Elon Musk follow rules.
They know.
It's not because he's coming out with something. Listen, even Elon Musk follow rules. Even Elon Musk wakes up in the morning, goes, man, I better get dressed. People can't show me. Yeah. So even Elon Musk goes around and saying, hold on, the more I get into this Twitter, the more money I lose in Tesla. Maybe I should find a way of getting out of this deal without losing face. I mean, even Elon Musk follow rules, right? The only thing is this: we give importance to these guys about rules.
Yes. Yeah.
But we ourselves should really have a look. We have, let's forget just the employees for the moment. We have two, 3, 4, whatever children. We set rules.
Mm-hmm.
We set rules, and you know what? The person that they become tells us whether our rules been very good or effective. That to me is more important than the rules that Elon Musk can come up with. You know, because I think again we've been brainwashed by society that a rule that we live by is only as good as the number of people we sway to the rule. Are you serious? What about that child that was born and given to us? What about having that child to being such a successful, independent human being? How many set of rules did we have to make, you know, in a couple, in order for that child to just stand up as a human being that will just live the ground where he stands or she stands? That to me is way bigger than making a car, man. And again, in the psychology of money, you know, Bill Gates actually credited his school for Microsoft. He said, if I hadn't gone to that school, which was the only school that had a computer in the school, Microsoft would never exist.
Didn't you have to break into it? Didn't you have to break a rule to get to that computer initially?
Right, I don't know. That's
He was
they
an outlaw.
didn't talk about it, but I know from reading another book that he had a lot of discussion, even I think whether him or Dell with HP, and I think we're gonna have to stop thinking that the people who sway some of the most more people, therefore it gives relevance to their rules. I'm going to now say this to you. Earlier, I was trying to talk with you and say nobody lives by the rules. I believe there are some individuals who do. The only way that you can really live by your own rules are by being a hermit. I think that the monk who goes into the rocks, deep into Himalayas, are probably the only people who can live by their own rules. And they go, if they don't feed me, I die. And if they feed me, my rule is that I'm going to sit here and try to reach nirvana by just try to meditate and empty my head. Maybe those are the only people, but as long as we are living with one other individual on the planet, because we're social animals, we have no right to just saying, to claiming that I am a human being who live by my own rules. You bullshit artist, you're a liar.
Yep.
All that you live by is your set of compromises.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's me closing. What about you guys closing? And you can close last, Ken. It's your subject this week.
I'd like to say just simply, I think if we change the way we look at things, things we look at are going to change. Simple as that.
Nice.
I would say set your own rules and live the life that you want to live. Spend it with those you want to spend time with, and do the things that'll make you feel the way you want to feel, not just in the moment, but for tomorrow. Because even though tomorrow is not promised, we must have hope that it will come. And when it does, you won't be regretting the choices that you made yesterday.
I just want to have a clarification.
No, wait.
You said set your own rules.
Wait, no. Don't you take this from
Okay, all right.
Don't you take this from
What I'm saying is,
don't you take this from me.
I'm not saying, let me clarify, because I can see you're confused. What I'm saying
There's no confusion.
what I'm saying is, even though we have the pressures of society and social media and everything else that set our rules for us, be strong enough to set your own rules, is what I'm saying. Live the life you want to live, because you're the only one that's going to live it.
All right. So in closing, if you think you can set your own rules and live, you're an idiot, because as my man Thomas just said, no one lives by their own rules. No one can live solely by their own rules. We are all human beings, but we're in a community who have to adapt and adjust to each other's rules. Anyone who says to you, I did it my way, maybe Thomas, you need to change your song, because he didn't and you can't. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Talk
guys.
soon. See you guys. Good week.
Bye.
Oh, funny. Okay, see you guys.